I think we're live. Let me check. I think we should be live. I think we should be live today. We're live. Yes, we're live. We're live, and we're gonna do today. Today is Socratic lesson time plus. Yeah, well, the article will do this later. So today's Socratic lesson time. Down. That's the stream to this. Exactly. That's what we're gonna do today. So today is sort of a follow-up of as a kind of follow-up of yesterday's exploration, right? With how do we use think aloud data? How do we use these kind of data to sort of breach between the Omega Quest stuff? Remember, and I'm gonna paint it again. Okay, so we have at the base we have Omega Quest. Here we have Omega Quest. So this is Omega Quest. How can I be that bad at this? Omega Quest. Then we have essentially open lesson, right? We have open lesson. And we have also the open companion. Now, keep in mind that all these pieces work together, right? So this means Omega Quest is the data engine, is the data collection engine. We cannot stop collecting data. We need to keep mining. This data is what fuels everything. We need to understand how people think. We need to understand what the baseline of things are. So Omega Quest is that platform or that system that is geared towards gathering the data, building the data sets, and making money off of that, right? So this means that there's a bunch of things in here that I'm going to put in the update. And again, it's Omega Quest, right? So we know the platform. This platform has turned out to be something where I have the feeling, and I'm mentioning this in the article that I'll drop later after this call. I have the feeling that what seems to work well here is the farming aspect of it and the hunting. I mean, the hunting is still on the works, but the farming is what's actually working well. So we've got 4 stakers on the Molbrook farm. We've got 1 on the Rent a Human farm. And if I open in here, you'll see that this farm has already made 250k Omega. This will actually be distributed across the stakers, by the way. So that is going to be basically something that because it does this weekly, right? It's weekly dividends, regardless of how much it filled up the pool, right? And then this one does monthly, the Rent a Human AI. Again, some of these still don't work perfectly, but they already generate earnings. And the reason they generate earnings is because they're already simulating some of the data, right, under the hood. But you don't really see that as a staker. It doesn't really matter. But I think that's kind of like, this seems to have been what's very well received. And there's a couple of users which are using the marketplace a lot. I'm not going to connect the wallet now. And the marketplace has been improved a lot. So now you basically have you can submit audio and video. I'm gonna add the text submissions as well, and bots can submit as well. The idea is you sell your cognition, right? But still, the challenge is how to get people to think, right? How to get people to think out loud. This is actually proven to be like the hardest thing ever so far. So I'm all the time brainstorming tools to make that easy, right? Hunting is one. So, take your pendant, take your smart glasses, whatever out there, gather the data. I think we almost have to build up that habit. There's not many people out there that are doing think aloud kind of stuff, right? So one of the things that I built that I wanted to test today is Socratic Lesson. Socratic Lesson is what I was more or less referring to yesterday. um and the Socratic method is this method where you want to learn something, or you're studying a topic, and essentially um it's the tutor is not giving you answers, or is not telling you the things you have to learn. It's basically listening to your reasoning when you're reasoning out loud, and it's then asking you questions that are supposed to trigger you deeper into the first principles of what you're learning, right? Very similar to what I do in my videos, though in the videos I do these alone, so to say, talking to Grok or whatever, but like the AI does not challenge me directly, right? I'm kind of playing the two roles in my head at the same time, which is a bit odd. So what I built here is a Socratic Lesson. Socratic Lesson is a tool that I'm building um, that allows you to basically learn anything on your own using the Socratic method and using a Socratic tutor under the hood, right? And the idea is, if you go to your dashboard, you're going to see here you can have all your sessions and whatnot, right? But the idea here is that you can also import your think aloud data, right? So you can also upload your own data of like your thinking process, and the the tutor is going to learn your reasoning patterns, right? And that's over time as you're using the sessions, that's going to happen as well. So the tutor is going to learn your reasoning patterns, and is going to be able to understand better how to guide you through a specific topic in terms of learning that topic, right? And that's what I want to play with today. I want to test this. By the way, this is something you can already go and try. It's socraticlesson.com. And actually you can do one lesson for free. If you're an Omega holder, just DM me. I'm gonna give you like the regular tier for free, right? So the idea is basically I wanna see if I can make that fly as well as a revenue stream, to get people that are into like learning stuff to use the Socratic lesson method. And then essentially what these does is you have one Socratic lesson, but you can buy an extra lesson for like $199. The same with the popular, like with the regular plan, which is $4.99 a month, and it's 5 lessons a month, so one per week. And the idea is that you can also buy extra ones, and then $40.99 is basically like unlimited sessions and whatnot, right? But the idea is, and this is open source, by the way, so it's kind of following the philosophy of the OpenStack. So if you really want to go and run it on your own, host it on your own, like your own local LLM and whatnot, that's the whole point. Like I'm planning to use this with my own kits. I'm gonna sort of make a version of these as well for kits, or I have like a kits mode as well. That is gonna be about like drawing, learning how to read, learning how to stuff like these, right? But as well in a Socratic method. And you'll see how this works. Okay, so we're gonna do a small example now as part of this session. And of course, you can pick whatever you want, right? You can pick the topic you want to learn about. If you don't know where to start, there's a bunch of topics in here that you can pick from. So there's some suggestions in here, right? So how hypothesis tests work, how what does E equals MC squared actually mean, this quantum mechanics stuff, and then you have like a bunch of topics you can pick from: machine learning, AI, algorithms and data structures. And so you can just pick one of these. If you don't know what to do, you just want to give it a test, right? But what I want to do is, let's do something from math, and let's do a field in mathematics. Well, I know a field. Yes, because I think I can bridge it from the definition of a field in physics. So let's do this and see how that works, right? And again, this is something that it's already live. You can go and actually use this, socraticlesson.com. I'm building every day. I'm improving it as well, obviously. And you can, I forgot to say that in your dashboard, you can completely customize the tutor. So you can go to the prompts and you can actually customize the prompts that are used for how the tutor is probing you, and how the tutor is checking whether the session is already at the end or not, the type of report that you want at the end of the session, stuff like this, right? Gap detection, like is it going to be listening for like hesitations, long pauses and stuff like this, and how how the scoring is done. So you can completely adapt it to your own learning style and to your own needs. And yeah, if you have any problem with it as well, just contact me. But the idea is this, right? So we're gonna use okay, so we're gonna study fields. So we're gonna study fields in mathematics. So what are fields in mathematics? We're going to do these, okay? And again, the idea is you're thinking out loud, right? So that's connected as well to Omega Quest. We actually gather these data and basically use it for the Omega Quest dataset building. So the way this works is you pick your topic, you start, and it gives you an initial question, right? The session hasn't started yet. You have an initial question, and you have some expectations. What comes to mind when you hear field in mathematics, right? This is the first starting question from the tutor. So you have basically, this is what you're going to expect. That basically you have a starting question, then you have like the AI tutor that jumps in and follows up as you talk, and then you have a few controls in the session, like the tutor mode. So if you're really the tutor is really interrupting you too much with questions, you can just turn it off for a while, or you can make it more passive or more active. And then also how often it asks stuff, right? Like more rare, like rarely, normal, or more frequently. You can also mute the tutor for 10 minutes if you just want to think through something calmly, and sort of allow yourself to doubt long. And then you can give also a nudge to the tutor if you feel you're kind of stuck, and you want to nudge, right? You nudge the tutor so that it kind of probes you, and that's the idea. So let's see how that goes. So you start the session, and that's sort of how it looks like, right? What comes to mind, and well, it's just like, well, let's just get into this. So what comes to mind when you hear field in mathematics? Okay. When I hear field in mathematics, well, the thing is, I'm familiar with the notion of a field in physics, in the sense that a field is some kind of thing, some kind of property that has a value everywhere in space, right? So it's not just a property of an object. It's more like there's gravity everywhere, right? So people can think of gravity as like a gravity field. So you kind of have a field, and then essentially, this point has this value, that point has that value, etc. But in mathematics, I don't remember. I've seen these, and I don't remember. Probably has some sort of like arithmetic meaning, maybe. It's something like a combination of maybe uh some numbers and some operation. I'm not so sure. So I would say field in mathematics, yeah, it kind of feels like an object like this. So I'm gonna, at this point in time, nudge the tutor and see if he can help me kind of get a bit unlocked. Because to be honest, that's all let me see this thing from other algebraic. So it's an algebraic structure. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. It's an algebraic structure. So this probably means that it has what is it? What does it make it distinct? So a field, and of course, what I can do any point in time is basically keep that here open an assistant as well on the other side, right? And then work together with Grok. That doesn't stop me to use these. So I could use Grok to kind of help myself augment the way this works. Maybe I'll blend it into the tool. Well, actually, it might be interesting to be able to have something where you're asking questions or just supplementing knowledge. But so what is an algebraic structure? That's the first thing that I'll ask. And yeah, so you have groups, rings, and fields, exactly. So it's basically, here what it says is that it's rational, real, complex. It's a type of numbers, and then this operate. Every non-zero element has multiple inverse. I don't know, because the fact that it's called a field. Okay, so the fact that it's called a field, maybe it's got to do with something that is related to the structure of it. Here it talks about a billion groups associative, like a ring. And a field is every non-zero element has multiplicative inverse field. What other thing is, what other concepts do we define it in relation to? That's a common way of thinking. Feel closed under its operation. You can go deeper, by the way. So we know that a field can be closed. So we've learned that. If I go deeper into these questions, what would it be? Operation elements within a specific set produced an element outside that. Okay, so that's interesting, right? So essentially, what this is telling me that you're right. So it's maybe called a field because the reason here behind these is that there's no outside of it, right? So what would be the consequence of an operator or on elements within a specific set produced an element outside that set? And that's maybe why it's called a field, because a field feels infinite. Not so sure if that's the right way of reasoning, but it could be that that's what makes a field, right? That's why it's called a field. How does the concept of returning to the original set relate to the definition of a field's operation? Well, it's probably related to what I'm saying now, right? Um, that basically the operations always end up in the same set, so you're not going outside of the set, and that's why it's called a field. It doesn't have an outside. In what way does the closure property guarantees self nature of a field's algebraic structure? I'm not so sure in what way is the closure property. Is it just by nature of the type of sets or the type of elements that are being considered candidates for being a field? Like, I guess there are natural structures or natural elements that just by definition wouldn't actually be able to be part of a field at all in the first place, right? Maybe that's a notch. And what if division by zero was allowed in the field? Is it allowed? Is it not? What properties of a field would be violated if division by zero were permitted? Well, a division by zero is kind of like an anomaly, right? It's a not allowed kind of type of result, and by definition, that results in something that is not in part of the field. So what could is out of zero while maintaining the other field? Alter the fundamental axioms being defined. Well, if there's exists a multiplicative inverse, it means that it exists the division, right? And the division by zero is no. Doesn't is that the thing? So that would then basically just make that field not a field. I mean, in the sense that this field doesn't have an outside, actually have an outside. I struggle to move out of that. Let me think. Let me think harder. It's the thing, right? This forces you to think a lot. That's the. Let me. So this is basically what I'm trying to say is these. I probably still need to tweak the interface a little bit, the interaction, but I like the fact that it's not giving you answers, right? And in a way, it's forcing you to think out loud. It's forcing you to keep expanding on what you're saying, and it's just carefully looking at the way you're reasoning, right? And then based off of these, uh, you know, yeah. I mean, I guess one thing that would be interesting to put in here from a mechanic perspective is something that would give you a sense of, am I going down the right path or not? Right? Am I saying bullshit or not? Because it feels like that is missing and the nudges are very linear. So I'm like, when it goes the next one, I can't kind of go back to the old one. Maybe I should add the possibility to sort of like sift through the nudges so I can go back to what it asked before, or at least see a bit of a summary of what has been asked so I can kind of connect dots. And yeah, I think that's it. I'm just thinking about how to go about it. Uh, as in, like, you can use, of course, any tool. Um, yeah, that makes total sense. But I guess I hope you get the gist of it, right? It's and I can stop the session now. And when you stop the session, it basically uploads all the stuff, and you get your results, right? Uh, in the results, what I'm gonna do, it's not here yet deployed. There's gonna be a bit of a report, right, of what you did well, what you did wrong, and stuff like this. That's still coming. You have the Socratic timeline, so you see everything that was asked, and you actually can go deeper here calmly and just rethink what you thought through. You can listen to yourself again here in the audio. And of course, we have now basically captured the data as well, right? So we've captured you thinking out loud, which is uh, for data privacy reasons. What I can do is I'll make it an option in the dashboard that you can choose if the audio is captured or only a transcript is captured if you don't want your voice, which is totally understandable. Okay, so I'm gonna add these two things, that we only do transcript, and then the summary is definitely. But yes, you can go and try yourself and give feedback. As I said, you can do one lesson for free. And if you're Omega holder, just DM me and I'll give you free access to the regular tier. Okay, so you can do then 5 sessions a month. And I mean, guys, that's the future of learning. I mean, this is definitely like way better than any. You see that the problem is that you go to these places. The problem is you go to, what's that called? That stupid website. Um, like a learning platform. Brain. What? Oh man, learning platform. Like online learning platforms. The problem is, Udemy is one thing. No, but I mean the Brain. Oh man, they're sponsoring all the YouTubers. Brain. What was Brilliant? No Brain. Brilliant. Yes. So learn by doing, right? The problem here is that you actually have a lot of the material is instructive, is instructions, right? So they actually explain you stuff and then you apply it. And yes, I think it's not too bad, as in, like, you actually have practical elements to this, which is what makes it does help, but it does not really. um it's very sandboxed. That's the problem. It's very sandboxed. The more sandboxed you are, the less you're truly learning, right? Because then when you're in the wild, outside of the sandbox, then you're like, oh my god, I don't know. That's a big problem, right? With learning nowadays, is that you it's all everything's so fucking sandbox, because because it's curated material and you have that exercise to try that. But if you haven't really internalized that, then you're not gonna, like, the problem is then in the real world you don't have that sandbox. And when you're facing something totally new, where you can actually pull knowledge you have from other places like physics and whatnot, you're not trained to use that. You're not trained to think out loud, right? Anyway, that's going to be that's it for today, guys. I'm going to drop the article late after the stream. I need to polish a few corners here and there. I just wanted to share these. It's adding features to that as well. The goal of that is also to establish, as I said, a channel towards the Omega platform as well. And who knows, maybe I'll integrate something here with the Omega where you get discounts as well. But if you hold Omega, if you're an Omega holder, hit me up. Okay, I'm gonna give you access to the regular plan for free. And yes, and that's kind of a nice way to learn things if you want to learn about any topic, and then at the same time generate think aloud data. And it really helps your brain, guys. You actually have to train it. So see you tomorrow. Stream every day. That's not going to change. See you tomorrow.